Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emilie, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who are brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view.
Hello and welcome back to the Coast. My name is Whitney Popa. I own a communications consultancy in Edmonds, Washington.
And my name's Emilie Given. I own a virtual assistant agency in Lynnwood, Washington. And today we are interviewing Hailey Bohlman. She's a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of Cork and Fizz. Hailey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So tell us more about Cork and Fizz. It's more than just wine tasting. You do so much with it. Tell us, what it's essentially about.
Yeah, Cork and Fizz, it's basically about like learning about wine and adding more joy into your life is the way I like to put it. I mean, wine is the way that we do that, but the idea is like really treating yourself to having fun and learning something new. So the Cork and Fizz started actually during the pandemic. So it started as virtual wine tasting, and the idea to how can we bring people together and have fun even if we're stuck over our computers. And then from there, it's expanded. I do everything from in-person tastings to going to people's houses and hosting a tasting there to partnering with local businesses in wine, because I know wine can be intimidating, but a lot of people love it. They're just afraid to ask questions. And so my goal is to be that person that you are not afraid to ask the question to, because I like to believe I'm decently approachable.
I feel like you're very approachable.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not like those people on that video series that my grandfather made us watch about, like, it's not becoming a sommelier, it's above that, like a master of wines or something.
Either master of wine or master of sommelier. Yeah, that is like the level that like I think people feel like. It's so funny to me because like, no, I mean, I understand it, but like some people feel like they need to know about wine before they ever learned about it. There is no other topic that is like that. Like if I stepped onto a basketball court right now, I would suck because I've never played basketball. If you've never tasted wine, it makes sense that you wouldn't know how to taste wine or how to talk about it.
There's so much to know, though. Like I feel like I very much enjoy wine, but people are like, I smell notes of whatever, and I'm like, smells like wine. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. That's what makes it cool.
Yeah. No, like I actually was at Ven, a local wine place recently, and swirling wine or whatever, and I was like, oh, it smells like chocolate. And he's like, well, yeah, like cacao nibs or whatever. And I was like, whoa, I did it. But like, how do you learn this stuff?
Good for you.
Yeah,
Emilie.
I know. I'm so proud of myself. But did you take all the training classes, like the WSET or whatever it's called?
Yeah, you got it. So I did. I am WSET. I took WSET 2. So WSET is like Wine and Spirits Education Trust or something like that. So there's lots of different routes you can take to learn about wine. And if you want to go like the professional route, I'm trying to think of what the sommelier one is, but sommelier is like a wine waiter. They're the person that comes to your table and asks you about wine. And there's that route to go, but I plan to never actually like be your server at a table. I was a waitress in high school and I didn't like it. So I don't plan to do that again. So I went the WSET route, which is more kind of learning the like a little bit of theory behind the wine and just like about the different things. But more than anything, I think wine is one of those things you learn as you go, and you can learn so much without ever having to take a course. So I am certified, proves I know something about wine. But beyond that, I just like checked out every book from the library that I could about wine. If you can see where I'm recording, there are literally bookshelves on either side of me, and they are full of wine books. It's something that like I think there's so many resources out there that like you don't have to take a course. You can just have fun with it.
So this is something that I really love to talk about because I truly believe that we can be successful in our line of business without having that MBA, without having that formal education. Yes, it's helpful. yes, it can be necessary for some things like being a doctor or a lawyer, right? But like otherwise, we can be successful in whatever we're doing if we are resourceful enough, if we go down, take an online course, if we read the books, if we talk to mentors. I love that you said that because it's something I talk about all the time and I'm really passionate about. So thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in this area with all of us like business owners and people venturing out and trying new things, like you said, you just figure it out as you go. You don't have to be the expert in it. There's always going to be people who know more than you, but that also means there's always more for you to learn, which is so cool.
Yeah. Thank you for deciding too, because I actually had a realization a couple weeks ago about people will buy into you being on your journey. Like they want to be with you and learn alongside you. And like you said, you don't want to be this intimidating wino. It's okay to not know everything. And we're pretty conditioned to go into, I need to be an expert on this thing. And if you are willing to put yourself out there and do it well but imperfectly, people give you a ton of grace and they're there to support you. Their money, like let's say they're coming to an event of yours and it doesn't go perfectly for you, they probably don't even notice. They're there to invest in you and you showing up and being passionate about what you're doing, and that's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I'm that same way. I just decide and then I research the shit out of everything and go hard.
Absolutely. I mean, I prep every event, I make note cards, and I look into it and then like I say half of what's on the note cards, right? But like nobody knows that but me. Like I had so much ready to go and like I could say it if anybody has questions about it. People are there for the experience too. And that's something I have to remind myself as well that like, yeah, there are people that know more than me, but nobody is me, right? Like except me. And so I bring something to the table that nobody else can. And it's not endless amounts of education and information. Like that's not why people come to me. They come to me for me.
Yeah, and I saw this meme the other day that was like it's like they can steal the recipe but they won't have your sauce. And I'm like, yes.
Ooh, I love that. Yes.
It's so true. It's so true. Okay, so like how did you get into wine? Did you like wine before the pandemic? I mean, did you like wine since you were 21 years old, which I did not, by the way. No.
In terms of drinking wine, when I was 21 years old, I drank sweet wine. I have a picture of me on my 21st birthday holding a Magnum bottle of Moscato from Barefoot.
Yes, how did I know?
Yep, everyone's favorite at 21. So like, and then from there, as I grew older, I did drink, like wine was my drink of choice if I was going to drink something. But it wasn't until my husband and I took it was my birthday trip. And we went down to Willamette Valley in Oregon, which is a wine region in Oregon.
I love that.
Happened to go down there.
I was going to say, hot take, that's way better than California.
It was amazing. And like we did it simply because his parents at the time were living in Portland and we had a dog that doesn't like going to like boarding, or we dropped the dog off at his parents' place and then finished, drove the rest of the way to Willamette. And it just like every spot I went to, I fell more and more in love with wine. I just thought it was so cool. And like I was like, this region, they make a lot of Pinot Noir. Like we're going to get sick of it. And we didn't because it was different at every spot. And how cool was that? And so at the end of that vacation or little mini trip, we did a tour. It was meant to be a public tour, but we were the only two that signed up, my husband and I. And so this tour guide like took us through. We went up in the vineyard. We got to taste one of the grapes. And then we went down, into the winemaking facility and met one of the winemakers. And like he could tell that I was clued into everything he was saying. So by the end, he recommended a book. It was called Cork Dork by Bianca Bosker. And that is the book that I then found later at a bookstore, read it, and like the rest is history. I was just so interested in, I'm somebody who loves learning. I was like a kid that loved making math problems for myself for fun. So like this idea that I could just learn endlessly about wine was just so, so cool. So I checked out that book, checked out every book I could then about wine. And then I also started a wine club with friends. And that was essentially like the inspiration for then starting Cork and Fizz.
Yeah, I love that you said that you read all of those books and you're kind of, I think that's the differentiator of anyone who's a business owner or like or has the fire to be an entrepreneur. It's that willingness to learn. I definitely was the person who got sent home with extra math story problems, because I guess that's how you torture somebody who doesn't like story problems. Like I got all A's in everything. My brain just doesn't work with story problems. I don't like them, but I am a very eager and curious learner generally. And if you have that fire and that passion to learn and do and be imperfect, that's the thing that's going to set you apart. So hearing that is always funny, even if I can't relate to making more math problems.
I mean, I loved math. I didn't love other things.
Do you like logic puzzles?
No, I just liked math problems.
Whitney, do you?
No, I like the people puzzler.
I bought a book of logic puzzles. It's called Myrtle because it's like Wordle, but like murder mysteries, and it's all logic. I've been very
Oh.
obsessed lately, so that's funny that
You know what you should do with that is take the LSAT just to.
I actually had in my early 20s, I wanted to be an attorney, and I had all the logic apps download the LSAT practice apps. So when I saw this at Barnes and Noble, I was like, yeah, it's been fun. Anyway,
Yeah, we all have our little nerdy
yeah,
poisons.
Right.
we do.
And I love owning it too. Like, I'm sure we all had different parts in our lives where I wasn't embarrassed, but I wasn't as like forthcoming about the nerdy things that I was into because I got made fun of a lot. I mean, I had an ex-boyfriend who was mean to me about how much I like to read.
What's his
And
name?
now, we're not going to talk
I
to
was-
him or about him more, give him more energy. But I actually had a reading with a former guest and my manifestation advisor, and she said that my guides talk to me a lot through books. So it makes sense that I have
Makes total
so
sense.
many
Yes,
books.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I feel it. Like, I don't know for you, Hailey, if you feel when you're next to a cool wine or at a tasting room that's this cool little hole in the wall and you just feel pulled to it, like you're meant to go into that and talk to the winemaker and learn about his or her past. And I know that our lives lead us in certain directions, and I'm interested if you've been watching that for yourself in this journey, like the wine books that call to you, or the makers that you're meant to meet or connect with through your Instagram algorithm, or how even those little nudges have been for you, if any come to mind.
I mean, I think like the biggest thing for me is like finding people, like finding my people on social media has been a big part of it, both within the wine world and in the business world. About like, I can very much relate. I struggled as a kid to make friends. I just like didn't feel like I connected with people. I also come from a very small town, so my options were very limited. But like I stood out. I was the kid that just like cared about getting good
Where do you
grades
come
and
from?
and doing those things. I'm from Wisconsin, super small town called Dodgeville. It's like 4,000 people. So yeah, and so like I struggled to like find people, and I just at some point started to believe that like there was something wrong with me. Like there was like I was like missing something, or I wasn't like I needed to change something to be more likable. And luckily, don't worry, like I grew out of this, and that's definitely something that, like I wish I could tell young Hailey, like you will find your people. You're just not in the right spot right now. And college was part of it. I met my husband there. But I mean, a lot of this is like once I started this journey, like wine people are amazing. Like you will have a few of those outliers that are total snobs, and you just ignore them because there's few of them. For the most part, wine people love talking about wine. They think it's freaking amazing. And so like if you just start talking to them about wine, they want to tell you more. They want to hear what you think. They don't want to like tell you what to taste in the wine. They want to be like, what do you think about the wine? Like, here's what I did to it this year that's a little different than last year. Here's what the weather was like. And they're just they think it's amazing. And like talking to those people is so inspiring. And then same with business owners. We are so driven and care so much about things. And like these are my people. And I've just like the more and more that I've leaned into this, and like I'm just being like led to my people.
I love that. Yeah. I want you to give me all the recommendations for bubbles, because I am leaning out of the wine world a little bit, or just alcohol in general. And
Sure.
we're part of a few clubs in Oregon and some over in the Chelan area. So I'm not as fun for my husband anymore, where like his hobbies are golf and wine. And for me, it's just what it does to my body isn't great anymore. I don't know how old you are, but I mean, I'm like, I'm not trying to wake up hot in the middle of the night from having a couple glasses of
That
red.
is fair. Like, the one worst thing about wine is that it has alcohol, right?
Mhm.
We were just talking about, like, the non-alcoholic options. There are not great non-alcoholic options for wine because the thing that makes wine, or one of the aspects, is the fact that it's alcoholic, right? It's an ingredient, or not an ingredient, but, like, you know, it's a piece of the puzzle and you can't remove it. So I know it is one of those hard things of, like, even I, like, acid reflux is starting
Yeah.
up, you know? And then, like, the whole, like, can't have more than 2 glasses. Being hungover is not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I still love wine. It'll never be able to
Oh,
lose me.
I will never quit a wine taste,
Yeah,
but I will quit like a daily drinking.
Yeah. And I have been leaning out of the wine world too. And it's interesting because it is what you said about, like, it's the culture, it's cool, it's like sophisticated, it's fun. And so that's been the hardest part for me, because I'm like, but I like it. It's awesome. Like, I really enjoy to taste the different kinds and, like,
Yeah.
hear, like, smell them and pair them with different foods, and it's super fun. So it is like it's a different kind of, it's a whole culture. I mean, there's a word for it, right? Is it viticulture? Viticulture?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm trying to think of, like, what, like, the winos call themselves of, like, but yeah, I mean, I think you can also appreciate wine, and also keep in mind that, like, I think it's just healthy for people to remember that wine has alcohol. Like, wine is, because it has this sophistication aspect to it, that, like, many people see it as, like, I wouldn't, like, have a shot of vodka every day, but, like, it's fine if I have,
Right.
you know, a few glasses of wine to calm down after a rough day. And it's like, I'm not saying you can't do that. I prefer to have the mindset going into it of, like, I'm drinking this because I'm, like, interested in this, and I'm curious about where it came from and who made it, and discovering those things, instead of it being like, I think there is this mom culture
yeah.
of, like, I need a glass of wine when I'm hanging out with the moms. No, like, go for it if you enjoy drinking wine with your friends. I love that. Just pushing that and
Yeah.
that being the
Yeah.
only option, and then people not feeling comfortable. Like, in my wine tasting, I've done multiple wine tastings now where we do have a non-alcoholic option, whether it's non-alcoholic wine or, like, a wine alternative. So you can still enjoy the experience even if it's not quite the same thing, but being inclusive and not feeling like, yeah, I really hate those pages that push heavy drinking of
Mhm.
wine, because I think you can appreciate it while still respecting
And I
it.
think there's a difference between, like, I admittedly go to a place where I'm like, what a shit day. I need a bottle of wine. And then I'm like, wait, not good. Not good.
Yeah.
So, like, we limit those. Yeah, I try to.
Right, you, like, switch it the other way of just, like,
I
I'm
had a
feeling
great
great, I'm
day.
feeling
Yeah.
amazing, there's bottle in that fridge that, like, I've been saving for a special day. Let's make
Like,
today that
yeah.
special day and
Yeah.
have a
And, like, I made
glass.
a really nice dinner. Let's enjoy this with not, like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
numb something out, So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I like that the tide is changing on that too, because even during COVID, when everybody was drinking
everyone
more
was
heavily.
raging alcoholics during, I mean,
Oh my
not to
god.
use that term lightly, but, like, oh my God, I drank so
Mhm.
much during COVID.
I mean, watching people's grocery orders, like, when you would see, like, pickup, and you'd see, like, half the people would have a cart full of groceries, but then the other half would have, like, a car full of
Yes.
alcohol, and you're like, are you gonna be in the house for, like, years?
What?
Where do you
Yeah,
need
we
all
were.
that? We weren't prepared for that. I guess they were very prepared for that, like,
I
just
mean,
in case.
that was a rough time.
What about the if I'm having a tasting with Hailey, or I'm attending a tasting that somebody set up, what should I expect? Like, what's the experience? Let's say it's in person.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is learn and try new things. Like, it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be like your typical, just like, here, I'm going to pour you 3 wines, go ahead and taste them and talk to your neighbors. I lead you through an entire workshop of learning how to taste wine. And so when you come out of it, my goal is that you can put into words what it is that you like or don't like in wine, or at least get a start of it. And then you can start practicing that. Because the biggest thing that I think when it comes to wine that I think most people would love to know is, like, when I go to a wine shop or when I go to the grocery store, what bottle do I buy? Like, how do I buy a bottle that I know I like?
I just saw your reel on this, and one of your topics was, like, do not pick the label that you're attracted to. I was like, damn it! Like, I'm doing it wrong.
And like that, what I say, like people, there's very strong feelings about that one way or another. Because some people love a fun label, and I'm not against a fun label. That's more like, especially if you're shopping at grocery stores. Because here's the thing: like wine is also a major business, right? So people are just trying to sell wine. So when you're at the grocery store, and like there are some good quality bottles at the grocery store, though my first tip is always a wine shop if you can, like our lovely Vi and Vin. But if you don't have time to make a stop, I know not everybody does, or not everybody has access to one. So if you're at a grocery store, a $10 bottle of wine, if it is like eye-catching, it clearly had good marketing, and it's like a beautiful label, how much do you think of that $10 went into the marketing to make you want to pick up that bottle? Versus a bottle that is like very plain, it looks traditional, like something you would have seen 50 years ago. Chances are that is just something that they've been using forever, and more of the money went into making the wine. But nothing against a good label when you're in a wine shop. Like, please grab a fun label and ask. Like, if that's the thing that gets you to ask a question about that wine, go for it. Like that should be fun.
I mean, the Snoop wine
it's
is
terrible.
not delicious. But it's really funny.
Yes, yeah, right. And like that's an example of like the gimmickiness, right, of it. But like again, if it makes you try something new, who am I to say not to try it?
There's that witchy one that we saw at V and Vin that we loved.
Moonspell?
Yeah.
It's open on my counter right now. It's so good.
Oh, see, and that's like small wine shop. You can guarantee, because that's why I recommend going there, because they know what they're doing, and they've put in like all the bottles in the wine shop. You can trust are good quality, and then all you need to do is figure out what you like in wine, because right, there could even be a good quality wine that you simply don't like because it's not to your taste, and that's fine.
It's so interesting. So going back to when I didn't like wine in my early 20s, my cousin was like, okay, try this wine. So I tried it. And then he was like, okay, now eat this. He like gave me a bite of like an onion or something. He's like, no, maybe it wasn't an onion, whatever it was. And he's like, try it again. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so different. So it was just interesting. Like wine changes, and like based on what you're eating, and
like what you're eating, what like when are you trying the wine, like what are you trying it with, have you had a different wine just before this wine? Like I do a whole wine and food pairing class, and I think like just the like trying those things together and realizing like there's a lot of chemistry behind it, and a lot of like science of why does it taste so different, like why does the food taste different, why does the wine, it's very cool.
And I've heard like you can't actually tell if you like a wine until like 3 sips or something.
Yeah, there is definitely like this idea of like a first sip can be overwhelming, of like if there's something different about the wine that you're not used to, like you almost have to like prep yourself a little bit. Like first sip is just like introduce yourself to the wine, right? I mean, it's the same way that like, do you really know you would like a person if all you did was like shake their hand and say hi? Like you might feel compelled.
Sometimes
to them.
the vibes are
intrigued.
off.
Right? But then again, the thing is sometimes the vibes might be off, but then you get to know them and you're like, they were just having a bad day. Or like, oh, like I read into like this thing. Like for me, I'm super like, if somebody doesn't give off like immediate, woo, I'm great, I'm good, I'm like, oh my God, do they not like me? Right? Like I just immediately have this on. It's like, no, Hailey, just say hi, get to know them. They just might have a different personality.
That's why most people think I don't like them, yeah.
It's like you have to like get to know them. So same thing with wine. You have to like try it a few times, and then the thing for me is like it's okay to not like a wine, but figure out why you don't like it. Like that's the thing I'm going to challenge you to do. And it can't be, oh, I don't like it, I don't like red wines. No. That's possible. You're getting there. But what is it in this red wine? Because I feel like I could probably find you a red wine you liked if we could kind of get down to like what it is you're not liking in the wine.
That makes sense, because I used to think I didn't like Chardonnay, and then I had Chardonnay at Whitney's house, and I was like, just kidding, I like Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Well, that's because my family is addicted to Rombauer.
It's delicious.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chardonnay is made in like a million different styles, and so many other wines are like that too, where like you don't like that style of Chardonnay, and it's totally fair that you associated
Buttery.
that. Yeah, a lot of people hate that buttery Chardonnay style, which was popular for so long out of California, which is what our grocery stores are full of. But there are lots of Chardonnays that are made in a totally different way, and so it's basically just like, don't give up on a grape, learn what it is so that you that you don't like, and then say that when you go wine shopping and you find that local wine shop.
That's really cute. Like, don't give up on a grape. You should put it on a t-shirt.
Don't give up on it. Give them a chance.
Yeah, do you do themes?
Yeah, absolutely. So with my private tastings, they're virtual or in person, and I have some themes that you can just choose from off the bat if like you don't want to have to worry about coming up with something. I do everything from like sparkling wines, wines of Italy. My very first class was a Chilean wine class. I've also done like wine and food pairing or just simply wine 101 if you want to learn the basic. Or you can like come up with your own. So like if you already have wine at your house that you want to do the tasting with, just tell me and we'll work with that. If there's like I've done a tasting before that was like a play on the sparkling, but we also did like blind tasting at different budget levels. So like
Yeah, I love doing
yeah,
that.
so like it was like a bottle of cava for 10, a bottle of Cremant for 20, and a bottle of like high-end champagne for 100. And then like everybody tasted the three and picked their favorite without knowing what wine was which.
Fun.
Yeah, we've done it and it's really fun.
I love the inventory idea too. Like, you have 40 bottles of wine at your house, I will come help you. Like, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then that way it's like you're not adding the cost. And like if you're anything like me, you buy a bunch of wine because you think it's cool and you can't wait to try it. But then you want to try it with other people because wine is so much more fun when you open a bottle with somebody else. Then those events are hard to come by, and planning that whole thing is hard to get everybody together. And so if you just work with me, we'll plan a tasting and then you can, get out some of those great bottles of wine you've been wanting to try.
What's the most popular type of event that you've done?
I would say for like the private tastings, wine and food pairing is definitely towards the top. Also, wines of Italy has been like a favorite. I think it's just fun to like, we see a lot of Italian wine. So learning about that region, trying specifically 3 wines from that region and learning about them. And then I also kind of talk about how to read the label, which is so confusing on Italian wine. So yeah, those are definitely 2 of the top.
Okay, so I want to know, how did you get here? Like, what did you work in wine previously, like in a corporate job, or like what did you do before you did this?
Sure. So I did not work in corporate wine at all. I actually still work a corporate job on the side of this business. I've been told by somebody, they're like, don't call Cork and Fizz your side business. Your corporate job is the side job. I'm like,
love
you know
that.
what? Right,
Yes.
absolutely. Right. So I actually am in tech. So I used to be a software engineer. I'm now a technical program manager.
Oh my
But
gosh,
luckily,
that's a lot.
yeah. But I have dropped down to 80%.
Okay, can we say like this is why you're into math? This makes sense more now.
Oh
like,
yeah, 100%.
I used to be a software engineer. Okay,
yeah.
It's like not a small thing.
So I've dropped down to 80% though now at corporate, which is really exciting. To like, as somebody who started their business with only having mornings, weeknights, and weekends, and now I have a full day to do Cork and Fizz. It's very exciting. Then I filled it up immediately with stuff. But I started this basically, so like I said, I started that wine club with friends. And during the pandemic, we decided we couldn't get together anymore. So previously we'd been, getting together at somebody's house. Everybody brought a bottle of wine based on a theme. We'd taste, I'd teach them a little bit. Mostly it was just to hang out, to have fun. But then the pandemic started and we didn't feel safe to get together at that time. And so I hosted my first virtual tasting. I basically bought some wine, filled up little plastic cups and dropped them off at everybody's door.
Cute.
And then walked them through all of the wines and taught a little bit. They were Chilean wines, so I taught a little bit about the wine country in Chile. I loved it. And from there I was just like, holy crap, could this become a thing? And so I think a couple weekends later, my husband and I took a trip. It was like a little weekend trip to a cabin in the woods. It was in October. I don't know what we were thinking. It rained all weekend. We were planning to like hike and do all this stuff. And it like downpoured all weekend. So instead, we created the Cork and Fizz website and I built my business and it just kind of started from there and grew.
So fun. And he was supportive too, like helping you build the website. That's so fun.
Yes, he's been lovely. He's also the dishwasher most of the time for all the wine glasses. I bring wine glasses for the private tasting, so nobody has to worry about that. And he's very lovely and helps me get those cleaned up afterwards.
My mom and George have this thing that they found at Joey's Kitchen in University Village, and they called it the sex machine. And the way that it like cleans the glasses, it's these little like aggressive mini mops for the wines. And they ended up ordering it for themselves, and they had to order it from the UK. And
wow.
Yeah, they're obsessed with this thing they call the sex machine, but it's really just a fancy wine glass polisher.
That's funny.
Why is it called the sex machine?
I don't know. They associated some sex. I didn't dig into it. Yeah,
That's
they
fair.
were
I
just
probably wouldn't ask my mom that question.
No.
To be fair, yeah.
You're like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna take your
maybe
word for
because
it.
I mean, I didn't ask at all. Like, there's definitely a block there for me, but like some bumping and grinding with it, I don't know. It seems sexual to them. Or maybe they got boners from how excited they were at how
Yep,
polished the
maybe it was
glasses
just
were.
that good. I mean, yeah, so we do not have no sex machines clean the wine glasses here at Cork and Fizz, but maybe I will need to invest.
It's a cool apparatus.
I think I know what you're talking about. I have seen them, and yeah.
Just saying, if your
That's
husband
funny.
wants, like, another job that could get him excited,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that you bring the glasses. That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, who has, like, I like that everybody, like, when I do the tasting, like, you get the 3 wines, like, sitting in front of you. So then you can, like, taste and compare. Because I think, like, the best way to learn about wine and to try, like, and to recognize different things in wine is you need them side by side. It's actually, like, something that was recommended. I have a podcast as well, and I had a guest on. Her name was Karen McNeil. She was the author of the Wine Bible, which is, like, the top resource wine book.
Wow.
And she said that, like, one of her recommendations for people wanting to learn about wine is, like, whenever you have a glass, try to have, like, 2 glasses side by side, like 2 different wines side by side whenever you can, because that's how you will learn and be able to tell the difference between the wines, rather than just, like, trying a wine and smelling it and being like, okay, I smell this and this. It's like, smell that and then smell the other one. What are the things that are in one and not in the other? And then, like, have a taste of one. How acidic was that wine? Okay, now try the second wine. How acidic was that one? Right? It gives you, like, that kind of comparison to think about the wines differently rather than just having one wine.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
And I feel like wine's kind of like art, where it's just based on what you, like you've been saying. Sure, there's a level of education there, but I like the art that I like, and it doesn't have to be $1 bazillion for me to like it or feel like it's important or valuable.
Well, and we all have, like, the thing too, when I do my tastings, I always make sure to tell people, like, there is not a right or wrong answer. And some people hate that. Like, I've definitely had people where, like, we finished tasting, they're like,
I
okay,
want to win.
so what was the right answer? And I was like, there is none. I promise. I'm sorry. I know that's disappointing. Like, there are flavors that are common in certain kinds of wine. But the thing is so much of it is based off, like, smell and taste. And your sense of taste and smell are, like, built off your own experience. Like, there are certain smells that I know that you won't know, or certain smells that I am more familiar with that you would, you barely remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the same, and vice versa. And same with taste. Like, if I'm somebody who drinks a lot of black tea, like, tea has tannin, which is that thing that makes your mouth go dry from a red wine, like as if you had cotton balls in your mouth. So if I drink a lot of black tea and then I drink a red wine, I might not notice as much tannin as somebody who's not used to that. Right? Or if I'm used to drinking, like, kombucha, which has super high acidity levels in it, and then I drink a white wine with a lot of acidity, I'm not going to notice it as much as somebody who doesn't drink as much kombucha. And so, like, it's all, like, there truly isn't a right or wrong answer. Like, you are determining it for yourself based off your own past experiences.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that language around it too, because it makes it, even when I'm talking to winemakers and I'm hearing their stories and their notes and everything, it's really helpful to hear that added, because I'm like, I do drink a lot of kombucha. Tell me more about what my kombucha drinking does to my palate. It makes it more accessible to just the everyday empowered drinker.
And that's what, like, I think a lot of, like, why I'm so, like, my biggest thing is, like, people always ask me, like, well, do you ever want to, like, make wine? Do you ever want to, like, sell wine, or how are you going to expand? And I'm like, the thing is that, like, I just love teaching about wine. I love finding that way that, like, part of me thought when I was in school that I would end up being a teacher. I ended up going the software development route. It paid a little bit better at the time, so I was very much interested in that. I just love that moment in teaching where somebody goes, like, oh, like, if I can get that during my tastings, it's just, like, the best thing for me, and the best feeling of just, like, oh, or, like, later, like, I have a tasting club that I do, a virtual tasting club, and when I get messages from them where they're like, hey, I went out and I tried this wine because we had it in our court crew a couple months ago, or, like, I saw this wine on a menu and I was able to tell somebody what it tasted like because I remember having it or something. Like, those moments are why I created the business, and, like, why I'm like, I know the focus of Cork and Fizz will always be on like education and just the experience.
It's so fun to see you and like other people just like light up about what they're doing. It's really, really cool. So I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into some of our rapids.
Yes.
I'll start with that one. So, Hailey, what's lighting you up lately?
Gosh, what is lighting me up lately? I mean, I think it's just like the connections I've been making with people. I have met some really amazing people in the wine world, outside the wine world, some influencers here around the Seattle area, some business owners, and just like getting to talk with them about the things that I'm going through as a business owner or the things I love about wine. It just, yeah, it makes me smile.
That's so fun. What are you proudest of in your business right now?
Oh, I am proud of, I actually did just this year, I hosted my first ever in-person wine retreat. We went to Walla Walla back in April, and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, I've never done this before, but we're going to do it. We're going to see what happens. I want to do it. I've planned like wine vacations for myself. Like, let's do it for a few more people. And I just put together these schedules. I talked to winemakers, kind of used that like knowledge that I'd had of past trips and put it all together, and it was so amazing. And so I'm doing it again next year. So really excited and just really proud of trying something that like I didn't really know the instructions for, but doing it anyway.
Love that.
Yeah,
Get
and
scared.
if you have a link for it or even a landing page, we'll put it in the show notes so that people can stay tuned to
Yes,
learn more about
absolutely. I
it.
have a whole web page that talks all about, because I know people are like, whenever you hear a trip, you're like, that sounds great, but like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Like, I got you.
Yep. And Walla Walla is such a great place to visit.
Oh my God. It's so like, it has all the delicious wine, but to me, it's like just calming.
I've never
Mhm.
been.
There's something
I want
about
to
Walla
go.
Walla that's just, oh, it's amazing. It's just that area where like you go, you like sit in an Adirondack chair and you've got your glass of wine in your hand and you feel chill. That whole to-do list that's always running in your head, or at least that's what happens to me, just like disappears.
Bye.
You're just chilling.
Yeah. Well, and Red Mountain's getting pretty big too.
Yeah.
It's close by. My dad was the parks director in Richland. And so that whole area, they actually have a kind of cheesy, but at least the first book was really good, series of novels that's called Red Mountain that takes place like right near there. And they're the Obelisco stuff that you got is from there, the Red Mountain
Oh, yes.
region.
I mean, Red Mountain wine is also incredible. I mean, both those regions. If you see Red Mountain or Walla Walla on a wine label, you can be pretty sure it's going to be delicious.
Yeah. Tell us about a book you read or a podcast you listened to recently that changed the way you're thinking about your life or your business.
Oh, man. Okay. I listened to this podcast recently. It was on, I think it was a Boss Babe podcast, if I'm remembering correctly. And I can't remember who the guest was. I want to make sure I plug her. But she just like, the way she talked about like, we as women feel this like need to like do everything, and how hard it is for us to like step back and recognize that like doing everything is not going to get us like what we want. It was just like very life changing for me, of just really taking a step back and being like, what do you want to do, not what should you be doing, and taking that viewpoint of it was really helpful, because I've always been somebody who's like a perfectionist. I've been an achiever, and like I want to do the best I possibly can, but sometimes that just means taking a step back, trusting the process. I don't have to do everything.
Mm-hmm. And at least for me too, becoming aware of the shoulds that you carry is a huge component of it, because even for me, I'm pretty far on that unshoulding myself journey, but I'll notice them too. Even like, for example, it's right now as we're recording the Christmas time frame, and my kids' schools are just up our asses all the time with like this theme day and the concert and this and that. And like 2 days beforehand, bring cookies. They need black pants. I'm like, I ran into a woman at Little Bipsy the day after the Black Pants email for their Christmas concert, and she was looking for black pants for her son, who's in my son's class. And I was like, you know what? The school's not the boss of me. I'm not putting my kid in black pants with 2 day notice because you want me to. So, and that's something like, as people in school, you look outside of yourself for that validation, and we're trained to be that way. So it's not our fault or anything, but then we have to, as adults, kind of undo it And she was like, yeah, I'm not going to do it either. Like, you know, power to us women. But we're not even, my point is, we don't even realize that we carry it. And even when I got that email, I was like, well, shit, now I have to go get black pants. And then I took a second and I was like, no.
Yep. I mean, in comparison, like the game of comparison is so rough on social media. You know, I see someone do something, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. I
Yeah.
want to do that. And like, I do want to do it, or I think like it's a cool thing. But then taking a step back and be like, yeah, do I have time for it? Is this the top priority for me? And
Yeah.
like, when does it get to a point of becoming a should, even if it started as a want?
My
You know?
my best friend Ashley, I said something like, I should, and she goes, you could. So she just flipped it into could, and I
Ooh.
was like, what? Like, that just like just changes everything. I'm like, okay,
I love that.
it was cool.
I love that she said that too. What's the best business purchase you made in the last 6 months under $100?
$100. I think it was under 100. There's this copy company, Maha Copy Co.
Yes.
that did like a freebie of like, here's like content. Oh, they're like the first line of your content, whatever those are called, like the attention
Yeah,
getters
yeah,
or
the
whatnot.
hooks. Yeah.
Yes, the hooks. And it was just like a list of those. And I purchased that because I was just looking for more ways to make social media easier,
Yeah.
because that is not my expertise. And it has been, yeah, it's been a game changer. I use it all the time. And then I ended up getting a few more other things, which I think were a little more than 100, but not, I mean, they were still under like 500.
Yeah. They're great. And they just did a big announcement about how they're not pivoting their business, but what they're doing to support themselves in how they want to grow. And out of all the things that happen on Instagram and all the people trying to fight for your attention at all times, and as a person who does this as a business too and is very, very picky, I love them. And I love what they're doing and how they're thinking about it. So yeah, we'll make sure to put their handle in the show notes too, because it's funny you mentioned them, because I'm always like saving their shit and being like, you go girls. They're great.
Yeah, I love them.
And awesome that you're using it. Cause sometimes, I mean, I bought a few of those like big Canva things of here's 100 pieces to get you started. And then I get bored of them or think that
or they like don't fit, you
Yeah.
know, like there are so many people that claim that they have something that will work for any business. I run a wine tasting business. It's very unique. Like it does not fit under like your typical, you know, categories. I think these guys are one of the first that like legitimately created something that works for my business, and I could see it working for many others.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. I need to go check out what they have as their downloads now, because I didn't even know they had those hooky downloads and all that. But of course they do, because they're great. I have 2 more questions for you. This one, I know that you're going to add your wine spin on it, which is why I've been saving it. And then I have one more that is kind of deep and philosophical. So we'll start with, what would your last meal be?
Okay, wow. Gosh, these are challenging. I mean, yes, obviously there would have to be wine there. I'm trying to think of like what the question would be, like what wine would that be? Because holy smokes, and then would it just be like a good pairing, or would it be? So I think it would have to be, there's this wine that both my husband and I absolutely love, and we've just like never not loved. It's so good. It's this Lola Chenin Blanc, and Lola is like a really small winery in Calistoga, California, part of Napa Valley. And it's just, every time we drink it, and the thing for wine a lot of times is it just like brings back a memory, right, too. So like it just makes me think of him, and it makes me think of like that time when we visited Lola, and it was just like our fun little vacation through Napa, right? And so like wine has that ability to bring you back. I'd probably have a glass or a bottle. I mean, if it's last meal, I might as well have the bottle. I'm gonna have a bottle of Lola Chenin Blanc. And then to pair with it, again, if it's last meal, I'm lactose intolerant, but like I don't worry about that at this point, right? So I'm gonna have like a big bowl of mac and cheese with real cheese and full of milk. And like, yeah, that sounds
Yes.
delicious.
I also don't do dairy, so I'm like, yes.
When I was back in my wine days, I would have a glass of wine, and either, like, if my husband wasn't there to cook for me, and he mostly cooks for us, I would do a bowl of popcorn, like Olivia Pope status, or just like mac and cheese, Kraft macaroni shapes with,
Oh yes, the
because
shapes are the best.
they hold the cheese better, and it's just more fun, and a glass of red.
Yep. No,
I
that
love
that
that
sounds
meal for
delicious.
you.
I'm just taking advantage of the fact I'm like, well, I don't have to worry about how I feel after
No, I
this, so
think that's
like,
valid.
give
It's
it all to
valid.
me.
We've had a couple people say that recently, and I think it's really
Really?
cute.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
fart anybody out of anywhere. You're gonna be gone.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, I love that. The last question we stole from Rainn Wilson after I read his book, because I just thought it was really cool. And he asked this on his podcast. What's one life experience everyone should have?
Oh, this may be like, I feel like people say this a lot, but I think it's really important, like having some job in the service industry of some sort. So I actually mentioned this earlier, which was like, I was a waitress for a while. And I think it's just, I mean, I know you hear this a lot, but there's something to me about just like really it builds empathy, I think. Like I think that's something that like it can be taught, and like you can't be born with empathy. You need to be taught how to be empathetic. And like I think working in the service industry and recognizing how freaking hard that shit is, like the fact that we call like, you know, somebody working at a restaurant like a waiter or waitress like an unskilled job is so wrong. Right? Like the what you have to like the amount of skill that you need in order to successfully do that job is, you know, like sure you don't have to go to a 4-year school, but like you need those skills in order to do that, or to be, you know, somebody working at a store and like being able to have that customer service and working with different types of people. And just like I think it builds that empathy and respect for everybody at like any situation or like wherever they're at in their life, and recognizing that they're doing their best. Yeah, so I would say like, yeah, some sort of service job, whether it be in the food industry, clothing industry, or something along those lines.
You probably have that contrast too that I'm going to have another hot take about of I find that generally you're amazing. Software engineers tend to have very big god complexes, the biggest ego from the softest, like whiniest people I have ever encountered in my entire life is software engineers. Like when I
It
was
like it kills me how much like people complain about like what they make. Like they'll like make this big complaint about, oh, the promo didn't match, like my promotion or my raise doesn't match like the level of inflation or blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm sorry, how much are you making?
yeah,
Like
500
we are making
plus.
so much money to just like sit in, like, yes, it's taxing, and like it involves like sometimes, you know, some days I wish I had a job where I'm just sit and do the things, and like these things are the only things, like, right, they're just like very like non-thinking necessary. But most of the time I'm very grateful for my job, and even now that I'm not a software engineer, I still work in that tech area. And like and I'm just like, yeah, it bothers me so much of just like not being, you know, respectful of the fact that like you make a shit ton of money for like something that like the world just happened to decide that software engineers are
Right.
going to like be in high
Right.
demand right now. And that's, you know, other people are doing very challenging jobs and not getting the same pay that you are.
Yeah,
So
there's
yeah.
so much to be said for grit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And not to say that software engineers don't have it, but so many that I have worked with previously or that my husband talks about because he does what you do is I'm just like, this is confounding. It's like hilarious. If you put any of them at a restaurant, even bussing a table, I don't think they could hack it.
Yeah, that is very fair. Yeah, and especially now that I am a technical program manager, I have to work with engineers, and the best part is being like, no, I was an engineer. I know you can do this. Like,
Yes.
stop.
I love that you have that. I was actually thinking that too, because he does that. I mean, he liaises between the business and the engineers and speaks both languages, which is difficult. And you having that kind of on them is, I bet that, and especially being a woman, there's probably some stuff there. But I mean, I don't want to generalize or assume, but I can imagine you've had some interesting conversations.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Hailey, before we let you go, where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find my website, corkandfizz.com. I have everything on there, all the different services I offer. This is a website that I created, like I said, that very first day. It's had a few changes here and there, but it's pretty cool that that's stuck around. You can also find me on Instagram at Cork and Fizz, and that's kind of like my main place where I'll post. I post a lot of like educational content on wine and just encouraging and fun, and share things on my stories all the time. So it's a good place to be to come follow me.
I love what you're doing. Thank you for bringing joy to the people. And tell us about your podcast.
So I started the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine earlier this June. It was basically a way of just like, I want a way to talk about wine more and talk to more people in the wine world. So it's a mix of like, there'll be solo shows with just me talking about different things. Like in January, there'll be a podcast about like non-alcoholic wine because I get a lot of questions about that. So I always like to know like the why and the how and like the stuff behind it. So like I dig into like, how is non-alcoholic wine made, and like, what is it actually like? Is it actually safe for people who are pregnant? Like, what does it mean? And all this kind of stuff. I also do like deep dives into different varietals and learning about like, what is Cabernet Franc? Where can I find it? What does it taste like in different wine regions? All that good stuff. And then I also bring on guests. And so a lot of times these are winemakers from somewhere. I've also brought in some authors of different wine books that I really love. And different things like that, just to kind of learn more about the wine world from other people's eyes as well. So yeah, you can find that on whatever podcasting place you listen to. I'm pretty sure it's just about everywhere. And it's the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Hailey. You are so great. I'm so glad we met you and then met you in real life and now get to hang out with you here. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. Like I said, it's been so fun getting to connect with fellow business owners, and even better that we're like so close that we can meet up and have a glass of wine.
For sure.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of The Ghost. We will talk at you later. Bye.
Bye.